Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about layers of villainy. I just watched Elvis 2022, and I'm not. Do I need to say spoilers? You know, Elvis died in 1977. Come on, it's the story of his life. You should know it already. All right. So, but it really, it the movie looked at villainy, right? It really looked at villainy, right? So first of all, I'm going to say flat out, I think Elvis in the Elvis movie, the Elvis 2022, is a hero. He is painted as a hero, and honestly, I don't think that's wrong. I think Elvis was a hero. He did. So what do heroes do? Right? They benefit people. They benefit people at scale. I think that's a good description of a hero. They benefit people. They benefit people at scale, right? And so, what did Elvis do? Right. Well, he shared some of the most impacting music ever, right? And so he did a whole lot of things. So he helped music, the entire music industry. He definitely helped America, right? Like America's a super balled out, like super country, right? Like, it's just, I think America's the best country in history, like without a doubt, right? And like I don't think there's really any competition today. Like we don't have any peers when it comes to being awesome, country of the world. We're clearly the coolest country in the world. Like, come on. Do I need to make a list? Like at this point, it's not really debatable. And part of that is Elvis, right? Elvis was like, yeah, the best music in the world comes from America, right? And he was a mega level star, the likes of which had never been seen before, and he set down a platform for, album, movie, residency at Las Vegas. He did it all, right? Like he was a hero, right? But there were two villains in this film. One of them was Snowman, right? They said Elvis was a showman, but Colonel Parker was a snowman. And so you had this manager who the movie painted him as a villain. I don't think I really bought him as a villain. And the reason why was I'm not, a lot of people are like, hey, here's the this superstar was taken advantage of. But the thing is, like, what did Elvis have? Like, Colonel Parker, in my humble opinion, kind of built a platform for him to do what he did, like throughout his entire career, right? Colonel Parker absolutely made some mistakes, but it's really hard for me. I definitely, I definitely, if somebody says that Colonel Parker is a villain, I can understand that. I don't agree with it, but I can understand them saying that. But there is another villain in the Elvis film which I thought was really fascinating, and that villain is Dr. Nick, right? And so basically, the movie explained that, I guess this is a part where this does seem kind of, yeah, okay. So I kind of get where people are saying Colonel Park is a villain, right? So Colonel Park had this doctor lined up where he would put Elvis to sleep, and he would get Elvis up chemically, right? And now, yes, that's a villainous act to arrange for that doctor, right? But it is far more villainous what Dr. Nick did than what Colonel Parker did, right? Because one thing I think is really interesting is, so Colonel Parker, he definitely took some villainous actions. I'm not sure that makes him a villain, right? But here's the issue. Oh yeah. So Colonel Parker was a carny king, and he told that to Elvis the day he met him. In fact, like Colonel Parker ends up betraying Elvis and threatening to dump him as his manager and leave him, right? But the thing is, Elvis had watched him dump Hank Snow, right, who was another performer that Elvis outshone, and Colonel Parker was like, hey, I'm going to dump him, and you're the new guy. So, the old adage, if they will do it with you, they will do it to you, right? And basically, Colonel Parker said from the beginning, I snow people, right? I trick them. He told it to him at the very beginning, and he said, "And this is how I'm going to help you build your career." Right? So Elvis was signing on. Right? Now here's the kicker. Right? Dr. Nick was a doctor. Right? That's the problem. Right? When you're a doctor, you take a Hippocratic oath. You promise not to harm somebody. And it was very clear that Dr. Nick essentially was, he died. Elvis died at 42, right? Like, it's pretty clear, and he was under a doctor's care the entire time, right? For like the last 10 years of his life, right? Clearly, Dr. Nick was harming him. But the difference is, Dr. Nick took an oath to never harm anyone, right? Whereas Colonel Parker told Elvis day one, "I'm a con man, right? Like, you best know it, right? And I'm going to con for you." Elvis told himself that he wouldn't be conned, and Elvis was comfortable with Colonel Parker conning the world to get him on bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger stages, right? So it's hard for me to see Colonel Parker as a villain. If somebody said, "Hey, I think he's definitely a villain," I would say, I understand why you think that, right? But Colonel Nick, that is a villain's villain. That is the highest layer of villain, right? And I think when we dungeon master and we put a non-player character up, right? Ildrick, the ill-fated, dwarf fighter acolyte. We need to know what layer of villain we're dealing with. They're not all the same, right? And we need to know what differentiates a villain from a villain's villain. Dr. Nick was a villain's villain, right? That dude that's bad. That is really, really bad. Colonel Parker, I don't know. That's I'm not sure Elvis would have got where he got without Colonel Parker. So I always think it's interesting that people come along and Monday morning report back and say, "Oh, Colonel Parker wasn't fair to Elvis." Elvis may have done some covers in a bar somewhere and never done more without him. I'm convinced of that. So he had a little bit of success before Colonel Parker, but Colonel Parker catapulted him to stardom, right? So, and it seemed pretty clear that's where Elvis wanted to be. Like, he was getting in the cup, of the trebuchet himself, right? So, Colonel Parker didn't have to trick him to get into there, right? So, very interesting film. When you are dungeon mastering, make sure you know what level of villain you're dealing with that you're crafting, right? And what are the importance of oaths? Oaths mean things, right? That's what made Dr. Nick a villain's villain. He broke an oath. It's important. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.